This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are out and about, although the skies are very heavy and slightly scary looking. We have just finished the tail end of what was quite a dramatic storm. Lots of thunder, lightning and rain, but luckily it's not really raining anymore, but I'm not too sure what is up ahead. So we're going to stay very local today, look for either any leopards that may have crawled out from their hiding place and hyenas. So everyone, put your rain jackets on. It's that time of day for your live safari through the African bush.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include
So let's hope the rain stays off so we can have a wonderful live safari, but a dry one. Of course, we do come to you from many different locations, and we are here right now in Joomla Private Game Reserve. And when I say stay local, I mean we're not going to go on to any other properties. There will definitely be lots of interesting things to show you round about Joomla. So my name is Lauren, and I do have Simon on camera this afternoon, and you can even see the Impala are not overjoyed. Now they're just here beside Tumbeta, and they're all huddled in one little herd because they get nervous. The wind's picking up, and I actually had to turn my volume up on my earpiece because the wind is howling that bad. So the Impala know that this is prime time for the predators. And what else you should know is that you can talk to us. Yes, you can. We very much look forward to it. Please do send in your lovely comments and questions. You can use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. You can use @FC on the YouTube chat. Now, kids, if you're under the age of 18, we want to hear from you the most. So please send us an email to kidsequestions@wildearth.tv. Or alternatively, you can register on the Wild Earth website. Head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. So there's a huge range of options for you to submit your wonderful questions to get us thinking. And if the weather does remain how it is right now, we may need some jokes. Yes, we may need you to pepper us with lots of jokes to make us smile. Although it's 28 degrees Celsius and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, it's not chilly. Carol, hey, you're saying you're still super excited to be on board. I'm glad to hear it. I'm excited to have you here. It's not the most pleasant conditions, but I have to say we've had some fantastic sightings in conditions like this. The heat needed to break this morning. I think I spent all morning complaining about how hot it was, and we didn't find a single animal. It was, well, some birds, but it was too hot. So now, instead of complaining about this weather, we're going to embrace it. It may mean that the hyena den is active earlier, and it may also mean that leopards are around. Davi and I were working out, and we could hear very, very upset monkeys alarm calling during the day. So normally that means there's a predator nearby. So I think we're just going to bumble this area. It's going to be very, very difficult to find tracks because, of course, the rain has probably came and washed them all away. But if there's a leopard in the area, I want to find them. So we're just going to work around camp. I can't see the monkeys anymore, of course, and see if we can pick up on anything, and then we will head back to the hyena den. We had such a lovely sighting there this morning with June and her little June bug. Okay, so as I search for some wet, soggy animals, we're going to send you across to Pinda to say good afternoon. Oh my goodness. Sorry, everyone. You've already lost Pinda, and Simon is trying to tell me something. Did you see something, Si? Okay. Sorry. He thinks he saw something, and knowing Simon's eyesight. Oh, Simon. Well, that's why the monkeys were unhappy. Hello, my soggy wet girl. Simon, did I ever tell you you're a superstar?
I think you're not ready.
Oh, well, Simon did spot something, everyone, in case you're wondering. It's Tlalamba. She is staring at all of these impala, which means we've actually not positioned ourselves very well here. So, for the animal's sake, I'm going to reverse. You cannot block an animal from a hunt. I didn't even know there was a leopard there. This is why the monkeys were upset. See, she's very intent on these impala here. So, Simon, I'm not sure how we're going to get a view of her. Okay, let me try and reposition. This may be a little bit tricky, but I'm not blocking her. No, we can't do that. Sorry, everyone, I'm not going to block her chance. She wants to zoom out here and she wants to get these impala. Now, I can see her from here, so maybe we just need to look at the impala for now. I know you'd rather look at a leopard, but there's literally nowhere for us to position. And if Tlalamba does decide to come out, we're going to end up seeing everything happening in front of her eyes. But unfortunately, I don't think I can give you a view of the leopard. Debbie says, awesome spotting, Simon. Yes, awesome. Absolutely awesome. Okay, she's on the move. I can see her, Simon. She's moving down here. She's ready to hunt. So once we've got a view of her, Simon will put the camera back on, but I'm just going to keep my eyes on her. Oh, she's coming, Simon, there, crossing the road. She's crossing the road, right at Tumbeta. Tlalamba's a Tumbeta cat. Yeah, she's definitely in hunt mode, which means now we can reposition a little bit to get a view of what's going to happen here. But I can't block an animal from a hunt. That's not okay, and it's not good guiding practice. Even if it means sacrificing the visuals for a little bit, that's okay. Okay, what I'm going to do, Simon, is just reverse, so we've got a front-on view. What do you think? Or are you happy here? Yeah, I also can't see her. The grass is so long. Because she's going to launch her attack here. Okay, let us just reverse a bit, everyone. Yes, that was me getting whacked in the face by a bush. Diane, you're asking how many impala are there in the whole of Joomla, and you're 11 years old. And I have to say that's one of the most difficult questions I've ever been answered, and I don't have an answer for you. Can I say a lot? They're the most numerous antelope species we get here. And the reason we don't really know, see this, they're alert. Look, a few of them are looking in her direction. But they haven't seen her. They're not alarm calling. But they know that something's moving there. Some of them have got their heads down eating, but this one right at the front, she's alert. Now, yes, there's lots of impala, and the reason it's very difficult to keep track of them because they are so numerous, and it's very difficult to identify individuals. Now, with the leopards, I knew immediately that's Tlalamba. I know who her mother is, I know who her father is, we can identify them. There's not that many leopards. They're very easy to distinguish between them. But the problem is, impala, they're so numerous you can't. Unless they have a really unique feature, unless they've maybe got a broken horn or a torn ear or 3 legs, but otherwise it's impossible. And they also move. They're not territorial, they'll travel in herds. So they can move to another property if they so wish. So I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you, but I can tell you there's a lot of impala on Joomla. Now, where's she gone? I may have to call this in on the radio very shortly. She may bide her time. I really don't know how Tlalamba's going to play this. There's lots of lambs in this herd, and she's clearly using the vegetation. I have no visual of her. But it would be good if she killed on quarantine. Okay, Elton's going to keep a really close eye on the screen in case anything happens. But for now, we're going to send you across to Pinda to try and say good afternoon once more.
Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond Pinda. We've got a very special scene unfolding in front of us here. It's a little bee eater on a branch, and there's a whole number of bee eaters and barn swallows flying around. And a little bit further back, we've got a few grazing animals. So there's a wildebeest that is lying down, and 3 zebra. And just to the right of them, lying in the quite short long grass, is the 5 subadult cheetah that we've got here at Pinda. We came looking for them this afternoon and managed to find them relatively quickly, which was quite nice. We have had quite a bit of rain in the last 2 days or so though, so we are not going to be going off-road this afternoon. So it's a bit of a tough view of them lying down in the grass. But really glad we saw them and we found them, and they, for the most part, look healthy and well. Like I said, welcome to Pinda Private Game Reserve. Super nice to have you all here with us this afternoon. My name's Devin. Behind the camera we've got Odie. And yeah, like I said, we're going to start to come look for these cheetah. And we're going to spend a little bit of time with them. The zebra, it's a little bit of an unusual scene with the zebra right next to them like this. And just see one rolling over. And they have had a few altercations with the zebra in the last couple days. I watched the zebra chase them quite a aggressive chase. A little back and forth exchange between the wildebeest.
Bless me, sorry if you heard that sneeze there. That might not have been pleasant. Now, I still can't see Tlalamba. The Impala have moved off slightly. They've now sort of gravitated towards this termite mound, and they're sticking very close together. She is somewhere, and I think it will just be beneficial for us just to sit tight. Nature always pays when you put your patience pants on. Now, you see these young boys here. They're having a bit of a head clash. That is exactly the perfect kind of target for a predator. Those Impala that are not paying attention, maybe the weak, the sick, or the old, or an Impala that's not paying attention, and I must say it's normally the males. Especially the rams during rutting season. It's obviously not rutting season, and those boys are not adults. But still, if they're not paying attention and they're too busy headbutting and not focusing on each other, trying to say, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, that's the perfect target for a predator. But they have no idea that there's a predator here. They probably just think Lauren and Simon are doing more segments on them. They think, oh my goodness, another Impala segment. I've got my binoculars out. I keep trying to scan the grass, but whew. Morgana, there will be one Impala at all times as the lookout. So it's not always the same one. They take it in turns, and there will be always one or two, depending on the size of the herd. This is a very large herd, so I imagine it will be multiple impalas that have got their head up at one time, always on the lookout. The others will be feeding. Now, because they are a prey species of many of the predators, it's often assumed that maybe they don't have such keen senses. They don't have good eyesight, they don't have a good sense of smell, or even hearing, but they do. They really do, and they are alert, and they are fantastic at spotting predators. They are able to stand their ground. They are able to alarm call and also run from dogs. Of course, it's not always successful, but that's why they're so numerous. In terms of ecology, they're what we would term a buffer species. So they will be the ones that are always plucked off by the predators, and it buffers the other species, like the smaller ones that aren't as numerous and that can't protect their populations, such as a steenbok or a duiker. So the impala are the medium-sized antelope, and they're the most numerous here, so they act as like a protector layer for all the other antelopes. And that's important ecologically. They're not aware that they're a buffer species, but they are, and that's why they do get plucked off by the predators more often than not. But that doesn't mean they're not equipped with their own senses. So in answer to your question, yes, one will always be on the lookout. And then once they start feeding again, another individual will take up that role of being the lookout. Obviously, the more eyes, the more ears, the more nostrils on the ground, the better. As soon as one impala spots something not right here, lots of rosettes creeping towards them, they will alarm call, and everyone will immediately be alerted, and then it's game over. I cannot see anything. I just don't think it's worth our while driving round at this moment. I think we may as well just sit tight and watch from this angle. She will pop out at some point, absolutely. They're completely oblivious now. The vegetation is just perfect for the predators. In winter, it can be very difficult for a predator to launch an attack, ambush the prey, because there's very little vegetation cover. Not anymore. Beach girl, yes they can. Impalas can get mange. And I've actually seen a few mangy impala. And of course, mange is actually very prevalent in the animal kingdom, more prevalent than you would think. And because it is so contagious, it can spread very rapidly, especially in those sort of social animals. Lions are your perfect example because they are so social and they do allogroom. It means that their skin connects with one another very regularly. So because it is highly contagious, it will just pass right through. And mange is basically a parasitic mite, which is an arachnid, of course. A mite has got 8 legs. It's not an insect, it's an arachnid. And it's the same as what we would call scabies in humans. And it's been reported in 10 different orders of animals, 27 different families, and to date, I believe, 104 species, including domesticated livestock. So yes, impala definitely get mange. And what happens is the mite, it's very, very small. It will actually embed itself in the skin or hair follicles. Hair follicles. And it burrows underneath, so it burrows into... Oh dear. You're wandering off alone into the dense vegetation. Oh dear, little lamb. I don't know if Tlalamba's that far, though. Why are you on your own? Oh dear. I'll come back to that. Sorry, I just realised there was a lamb all on its own. But we're going to sit tight here for now and hopefully we'll spot Miss Tlalamba soon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Joomla Private Game Reserve. And my name's Andrew. On cam, I have Darby. And now we got a very beautiful bird there, sitting in these very thin, dry branches, which is one of the roller. The reason I stop here is because we don't see them often, but our purple roller, which of course normally we see lilac-breasted roller. Also, there is a European roller that came in due to migration down here. And we have now purple roller. If you see its color, difference to those two that I just mentioned, lilacs and European. It's actually wet because, we just received rain now, and all birds are just going to be perching. Those have to be preening, fix their feather. And the temperature of today is 28 degrees Celsius, 82 Fahrenheit. Cloudy though. And remember to talk to us. We're happy to answer your question anytime. The simple way is to register on Wild Earth website, and you head over to the live Safari page, and you can then submit your questions and comment there. We'll take it from there. Indeed, we would like to hear from you. Or then you can also tweet us on #WildEarth. Elton, you want to repeat that again? I'm behaving to actually, I'm not sure. That question, I'm kind of windy here. I don't hear really well. And because just of wind, and I just hear in Africa, maybe the question is that the birds do nest here or in Africa, this one or the specific, this bird, the roller. But if it was a question, of course, they do nest around here. And it's around September, November. And September, November, this is where they breed out here. December, this time. And they mainly pair. Here was actually two of them. And the other one just flew to the left. There it is there. Where that looks like a male, the different size is male, shorter, small body, and the female quite bigger size. So it's still gonna be probably pouring a little bit, and we will be doing a lot of checking on roads for any of new tracks coming into the area. And I know we have a Tlalamba in quarantine there, but we're hoping to see if there is another cats that actually really came into the area during this raining. And of course the cats, there will be still moving around and it's pouring raining, but most of the browser species, they would be probably stationary in the open area. So we're going to continue to check roads for new tracks. It's quite easy to tell if there's a new tracks or anything we're possibly going to follow up there.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Joomla Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
The scenario remains the same. The Impala are very relaxed and they're starting to gravitate closer towards Tumbeta, which is exactly where Tlalamba is right now. Or she's somewhere there. We can't see her. But she won't waste any energy that's unnecessary. She'll wait until she's very, very close before she goes for it, normally within 5 to 10 meters before launching an attack. Now, just to wrap up on Beach Girl's question about scabies. So once the mite burrows into the hair follicle, it can produce a lesion which gets infected. And that's what we can see when we sort of see animals with mange. And the infection will spread naturally as the animal scratches. And it's going to scratch whether it's with a claw or a hoof or biting with teeth because it's itchy. You've got a mite in your hair follicle. And over time, this causes hair loss. And that's what we see, for example, the Incohoma cubs. They're sort of suffer from a lot of hair loss, a lot of scarring, and that's where it's come from. So it's not actually the mite that's directly causing death, because what will happen is as the infection spreads, the animal can become dehydrated and it can lead to starvation and sometimes death, but that's indirectly from the mite, if that makes sense. The hair loss is actually due to an allergic reaction from the mite. The mite is not pulling out the animal's hair. It's an allergic reaction, and it also suppresses the immune system. of the animal that's got mange, and this also causes the organisms to become very weak and therefore unable to fight infections. So it's almost like a knock-on effect. You get an infection, the infection spreads, but then the mite itself is causing a reaction, immune system's getting weaker, and then can no longer fight the infection. That's spreading, if that makes sense. That's really how sarcoptic mange works. That's the full name for mange. And the actual species name is Sarcoptes scabi, and that's where scabies comes from. It's actually just a sort of link directly to the Latin name of the mite itself. But yes, I have seen mangy impala. She must be close. She has to be. I'm not sure, Linda. We may have to ask them. Ladies, I don't see any immediately pregnant impalas, but of course, there's normally sort of a second lambing season, a much shorter one that happens around February, that's due to later conception. So very possibly there's some pregnant ewes there. And we may see some lambs come in February, which will actually be really interesting because you'll be able to compare them to the lambs that we already have, and you'll see how much the lambs have actually grown. But I imagine there will be pregnant ewes there, but not many. It's normally a much sort of lesser amount of lambs that are dropped in the February bout. Okay, I'm going to pick my binos up and see if I can see any rosettes weaving through the grass. Impala, me too. Although it's almost dinner here. Late lunch, early dinner. But yes, if she does hunt, it won't be easy to watch, everyone. I may as well warn you, especially if it's a little lamb. But yes, of course, the princess needs to eat. And it would actually be really lovely to have her on quarantine for a few days. She's been missing in action. She's been around, we've seen her tracks, we've just not been able to find her. I can't see any sign of her. I think in a few minutes we will just turn around the corner. We'll still stay very far back. We won't disturb the impala, and we definitely will not disturb her. But just to try and see if we can get any sort of indication where she might be. They're all looking in a different direction. Do you know what? I think I'm going to turn your car around now, Simon. Now or never. And maybe we'll actually get a better angle of her travelling that way. She'll be so flat on the ground that you won't even... You might see a flicker of her ear, and that will be it. The distance is too great. That's why she's not launching out. It's too far. She's too far away. She needs to be closer in order to ambush and attack. So I think we're actually going to loop around and see if we can spot where she's hiding. And for now, we're going to send you across to another location.
Okay, so we've repositioned a little bit here. The ground's actually, we had a look and it's really nice and dry. Now we can see the fifth member of these cubs is just lying behind a tiny little bush there. You can see him through the kind of foliage and just slightly off to the left-hand side of the other four. So And go across to the left, you can see the other 4, and you can now have a beautiful view of how fluffy and young they are. You can see they've got quite a bit of a mane on the back of their neck still, fluffy around the ears, and their coat on the chest is also a little bit longer. I was just mentioning 5 or so minutes ago about the conservation story of these youngsters. Their mother was killed by a lioness, and they were taken into a boma for 5 months. So they spent from 5 months to 10 months being looked after in a boma, and they've now been released again, which is really quite amazing. They still have a lot to learn though. I was sitting with them the other day and watched them hunt successfully, and it was such a beautiful thing to see, especially for animals that are, they're still quite young. They're only 10 months old. They only had the first 5 months of learning from the mother, and the next sort of 10 months after that are still very important years for cheetah, generally speaking. They've got a lot to learn from their mothers in terms of hunting, in terms of stalking, in terms of how to actually suffocate animals, because it's not an easy task taking the breath out of something and suffocating it. And because cheetah are small, they have to really be quick and efficient at doing that sort of thing. Now, these cheetah have had some issues in the last couple of days with a couple zebra, and if we just zoom out a little bit here, we can see there's 3 zebra across on our right. Now, zebra can be quite vicious animals. They're not light, they're really heavy, and they're really, really muscular and powerful. That zebra's snorting at them now. And they're also really quick. So the exchanges that we've been seeing the last couple of days is the cheetah will get up and chase the zebra, and then the zebra turn around and chase the cheetah, and quite comical in some ways, but also very dangerous for these cheetah. Zebra have been known to kill young cheetah, and they'll stomp on them. Their hooves are obviously really hard. And cheetah are an endangered species, which is why the conservation work to make sure these 5 youngsters made it to, or had the best chance of making it to adulthood, was done, and why so much energy and time was being put in. And they do look like they're pretty savvy. They've had encounters so far with hyena and these zebra that we're aware of, and all 5 of them have managed to kind of evade any sort of injury really well, which is really quite incredible. Matty, that's a really good question. What happens with cheetah is, if this was a litter of only male cheetah, so if there were only boys, then there would be quite a high likelihood of them all sticking together. Male cheetah form coalitions, so they hold a territory, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 brothers sometimes even will stay together for life, and that helps them in many ways. They are able to hunt much larger prey than they would be on their own. They are able to patrol a much larger territory than they would on their own. And it's much easier for them to chase other male cheetah out of their territory. You can imagine having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 cheetah chasing you as a single cheetah. The odds are completely in their favor. Now, these aren't 5 males. There are 2 males and 3 females. And what that means, sorry, I think it's the other way around, 3 males and 2 females. So these 3 males might very well, if they all make it to fully grown adulthood, they might very well stay together and form a coalition of 3, which will give them great opportunity to hunt and patrol large territories and actively defend large territories. But probably between 12 and 15 months, the 2 females will move off. So they'll go off on their own. Female cheetah are completely independent, and yeah, like I said, 12 to 15 months, they'll probably move off on their own and start kind of moving through their home range. So female cheetah are not territorial, they don't hold territories. And they will only have their home ranges, so they don't chase other female cheetah out their home range, so they just kind of roam around and occupy the space, hunting, looking after their cubs, making sure that everything's fine. They also spend a lot of time actively trying to move away from areas where there are lots of other predators. When they've got young cubs, it's imperative that they take the greatest care of them, and to do that, keeping them away from areas with lots of lion and hyena and leopard is a really effective way of making sure the cubs survive. We are going to stay with these cheetah for a little while. We're going to send you back across to Lauren now and her leopard in a bush.
Where is Kalamba? Is that you, Kalamba? Ah, that looks like rosettes. There we go. I'm glad I was not waiting on a hunt that was not going to happen. Do you see that? She stalked, she got down to the ground, but she didn't ambush. I think the distance was just too great. So the other choice is just to nap. Why not? I can't imagine it's very pleasant on wet grass. However, it's a relief from this morning. This morning, I know I've said it, was very uncomfortable. And if it's uncomfortable for us, species that can sweat and can seek shade and drink lots of water in the vehicle, then you can only imagine how hot it is for a mammal like Kalamba. But we're not going anywhere. I've not seen a leopard for a day or two now. So even if we just look at Kalamba's spots, that's exactly what we're going to do. She will get mobile at some point. Kalamba never stays still for too long. We can hear some very, very upset elephants behind us. I don't know what they're upset about. They're definitely not happy. Now, if you were just driving past Umbeta, you would not see her, really. If she had her head up, yes, but when she's flat on the grass like this, no way. A princess needs her beauty sleep. Now, Andrew saw her 2 days ago, I believe, or yes, 2 or 3 days ago, and she had a kill. But she lost that fairly quickly, dropped to the ground, and Hart and Swazi ended up finding it. So the kills do drop very easily, of course. Hoisting something over a branch when it's heavy is probably a lot easier than when it starts to get lighter, because you've eaten most of it and it can easily topple to the ground, and that's exactly what hyenas lay in wait for. They want that topple. Can you hear the frogs? They've started already. They've started early today. I think the Impala have long moved off. I can no longer see them. Can you see all the wild basil around her? It's so pretty. It's one of my absolute favourites out here. The purple flowers. Just smells like aniseed. I used to eat aniseed balls when I was younger. I love it. Now, I didn't catch that name, but you're asking if predators get sick from eating sick prey. I don't really know what you mean by that, by sick, because you can get weak, you can get animals that are slightly weak and maybe immune compromised, but then you can also get diseases, and it really depends what animal you're talking about and what disease you're talking about. So let's take BTB, for example. That's bovine tuberculosis and bovine TB. The Kruger lions, there was a study done that all the lions in the area of the Kruger, they say that up to 80% of the lions carry the TB. So they're carriers of it. And it's a very slow progressing disease. It's not a fast one. And they estimate the sort of time from infection to death is anywhere between 2 to 5 years. So it's very, very slow. Oh, hello, pretty. I didn't think you would sleep for long. But the majority of the lions appear healthy, so they're not showing any signs of what they're carrying. It only appears to be when the sort of BTB becomes very advanced that they start to show symptoms. And this can be anywhere between... Nope, we're not waking up right now. Swollen joints, or maybe just wounds that should heal and they're really not healing. Poor coat condition. Weight loss, breathing difficulties actually, and lions get BTB. They become infected from BTB by eating infected buffaloes and other species. So I think it was around 40% of the buffaloes tested in the southern part of the Kruger tested positive for BTB. So that's just less than half. And obviously, as we all know, buffaloes are one of the top sort of meals for lions. Maybe because the buffaloes that carry BTB are weaker and slower, they are the ones that are sort of picked off by the lions, which would make sense. Which means that the percentage of lions carrying this disease is higher than the percentage of buffaloes tested, because the lions are going for the ones with BTB. And there was also a study done that sort of suggested that there's a possibility lions might actually transmit bacteria between themselves through sneezing and coughing, and they can transmit it to one another. Lions sneeze a lot. So it depends what you mean. In that sort of situation, then yes, predators can get sick. Depends what you mean by sick. Depends if it's sort of a virus, a disease, or just a weak animal. And BTB originates in cattle, that's where it comes from. And it obviously can spread to the predator. Okay. We hope Kalamba gets up very soon. But either way, Simon and I are going to sit here, and you guys are going to go across to Pinda with their cheetah.
Thank goodness the zebra have moved across to the right-hand side. They have left these cheetah alone to sleep. So the cheetah, you can see, are really not bothered at all. They are fast asleep, and for the most part have been fast asleep since we got here. And the zebra did look really close from the other angle. But when we pulled up alongside them, they were actually probably about 30 meters away, which is still pretty close, but these cheetah are obviously comfortable enough with them being at that distance. So Wild World, these 5 cheetah could definitely not kill one of these zebras. So these were 3 adult zebra that we had across here. And these cheetah are really small. They're not fully grown yet. Perhaps a coalition of 2 or 3 males could take down some young zebra. It's more than possible. I haven't seen or heard of it happening before, but I don't see why it wouldn't be possible if the calf got separated from the mother or something like that. It's size that could be possible. Zebra are quite aggressive, like I mentioned earlier, though. They bite and kick, and for anything that wants to hunt them, it's quite a relatively dangerous option, actually. So lions, obviously being big and strong, are pretty well versed in hunting zebra, but I think for the most part they're pretty much the only ones. I've seen a coalition of 2 male cheetah that would have potentially fathered these 5. I've seen them hunting a young wildebeest before, and I know that's not an uncommon occurrence, but yeah, like I said, I haven't heard of them hunting young zebra before, and definitely not big or strong enough to tackle an adult zebra. The weather this side is really looking a little bit ominous. It's gusting and winding. I'm not sure if you can hear the wind in the microphone, but these, I'm sure you can see the grass blowing around the cheetah. They really are lying quite flat here. I was just thinking the last couple times that I've seen these cheetah, how interesting it is. We often see these 4 cubs on their own. This is now the 3rd time I've got to the cheetah and seen only 4 of them, and been a little bit nervous that one of them, something's happened to it, and then seen it just off to the side. So we were chatting a little bit earlier about the cheetahs splitting up and going on their own ways, whether the males might stay together or what would happen. And I'm starting to get a feeling like this is what's happening, or what could potentially be happening here. So it is actually, they are a little bit young to be leaving each other, but it is interesting that the one sits on its side by itself all the time. It's a very good question, Narissa. The female cheetah can have up to 6 cubs at a time, which is quite a lot. Between 4 and 6 is normal, probably 4 and 5 being more normal than 6. 6 is a little bit on the more extreme side. But female cheetah are solitary, like I mentioned earlier, and for a single female to single-handedly raise 6 youngsters to adulthood is really, really rare. There's an instance where it happened in the Masai Mara, I think, or the Serengeti, I forget which one. And those cheetah are now world-renowned. People come from all over to see the brothers. On Phinda, we see it quite often, quite regularly. A female will have 4 cubs, and then as they get older and older, she'll lose one, and then she'll lose another one, and she'll end up raising 2, maybe 1 to adulthood. And that, unfortunately, is just the nature of cheetah and their rate of survival. The rate of survival actually on Phinda is much higher than that in the other bigger, larger reserves of southern Africa. Donna, DNA tests on cheetah, we keep a pretty good track of which territory the females are in when they fall pregnant. So we've got a database of information that stores the sightings. So we know that if the mother of these cheetah, for example, was in the north 3 months ago, and then now suddenly she's got 3 little 3-month-old cubs, we know she was in the north. It was one of those brothers, and we can kind of link the genetic information to them. There is a lot of kind of work that happens with cheetah and their DNA and genetics, though, because they were persecuted and hunted to such an extent that their genetic diversity is extremely, extremely low. The Endangered Wildlife Trust in South Africa runs a really interesting population project where they monitor and help distribute a meta population. It's called a meta population, and what they do is they'll move cheetah all around the country, so that they can keep so different cheetah are continuously mating with different cheetah, and they're not becoming any more inbred. And the reason they do that is because the genetic diversity of the species already is so low. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Cheetah require, generally speaking, a really large area of wild space to roam. I think historically cheetah had massive home ranges, and they would wander far and wide. And with habitat loss and fragmentation, they are one of the species that really has struggled to adapt. And we see that quite regularly with, for example, the high mortality with predators and that sort of thing. These little guys are really not moving at all. You can also see there, on the one on the left, there's a collar. So that's for the habitat team and the guys here at Punda to monitor them. The guides don't get access to that information, but these cheetah haven't moved too much in the last week or so. So they've been relatively easy to find. I think we are going to move off. We'll sit with them for another minute or two and see if anything happens here. But I reckon for the rest of the afternoon they are going to be pretty stationary. And so we're going to move off and see if there are any other interesting animals we can find. And hopefully we'll see you again shortly with some other cool animals.
Now, this sighting at the moment would probably be described as 0.25 out of 5 in terms of visuals, but she will get up, I promise. And there's another vehicle that's joined the sighting, so we've just moved a little bit to let other people see her. And of course, once she gets mobile, we'll definitely follow her. It's cooler, it's cold. It's going to get darker quickly because there's not much ambient light. The princess will get up. But you can just see, Simon's giving you the most perfect view of how well these animals can hide. And I can assure you, every single one of us probably drive past leopards every single day. And it's not that we're not trying or we're not looking, it's impossible. If there's no tracks telling you that they've gone in here, or there's been no alarm calls or, scats or anything to highlight their presence, especially on a rainy day like today, then you would never know. And if a leopard decides to spend its entire day walking through the blocks and flying over the roads, then you'll never see them. But I am going to wait this one out. Normally when the visual's not great, we move on, but it's Tlalamba. And I'm just so happy that Simon spotted her and we're able to spend some time with her. If she doesn't hunt now, I think she'll hunt tonight. And it would be really, really wonderful if she does on quarantine, so we can spend a few days with her. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to go anywhere, and hopefully the princess gets up soon.
Thank you very much, Lauren. So we now have South yellow-billed hornbill feeding on termite. There looks like an open chamber where these termites have actually opened. I think it's during the course of that heat that was taking place. Now they're about making sure that it's all cool off, the temperature inside the surface. And now it's a food for most birds. Hornbill, most. getting quite a few of them there, so this is the only time they expose themselves outside of the chamber there. But you see how this bird is also watching around for safety, its own safety, because that's how food chain it's about. Feeding on somebody, but you also meal for someone. So, Rosalind, you're asking the lifespan for southern yellow-billed hornbill. I'm not sure, but they probably can live at least up to maybe 12 years, somewhere there. This is only my guessing, but I'm not 100% sure. And those of, the ground hornbill for sure, those are the ones that live longer, 70 sometimes. But I'm not really sure with these red-billed or yellow-billed. Age 7. So you want to know how long does it take for this bird to get dried out since it's wet? It depends. If it's sunny, then it wouldn't be too much longer. The minute the sun penetrates through, then the bird is going to dry out. But with these still cloudy, and it's going to probably take a while because now it's only the wind has to be drying out that bird. So it could take sometimes half an hour or so. But if it stops drizzling, if it doesn't stop drizzling, it will probably get worse, soaking wet, more and more again. Now the food chain is, bird is feeding on its termite as a food, which is of course it's special food for most birds, full of calciums and those protein things, because of course also you find human feed on termites itself. In the village I've seen them, but how they catch them, they have to find a very long stick and they have to put it inside the opening chamber. Only they need the security, the soldiers, those are the ones with the long sharpening pincers. So we're gonna just take a silent moment here, watching this bird doing its best of feeding. windy. I tried actually them, but I was very young. I can't recall if it was, but I only remember that it was very crunchy. And just after school, teenager, you would have friends who know how to capture them. But you need to have a very safe for your own safety gloves, which is, it's got to be leather gloves. That's how you're going to, once you put a stick inside the chamber, and these soldiers, they bite actually for their self-defense. This is where you will feel it if it's something caught in there, and then all you do is just pull it off. And then you're going to have to disconnect them to one of the, whatever you got, container or, things like something they won't escape from it. But I don't remember how they actually cook them. It's probably with an oil, whether with the water first and then, put them into an oil, I'm not sure, but I remember eating them that time. So crunchy for sure. So we're going to continue searching around here to find anything to put in ashore. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Lauren with her leopard.
Now, at the moment, we're really only just looking at wild basil. She is there, I promise. And since we don't have a good visual of her, I tried to sort of tell a story this morning about a trophic cascade in an ecosystem. And it's a very simple, it's an oceanic ecosystem, but I was trying to simplify the damage that can be done. And this is just a really good example from the Atlantic coast in the States, in the US, and the trophic cascade that actually happened, and it wiped out, well, not an ecosystem, but it basically brought one of the ecosystems to a standstill. So please, everyone, excuse the drawings that I have just done. I just want to say they are not biologically, or they're just not correct. So do not laugh, I just rustled this up. But I'm going to show you a really simple ecosystem, and I understand it's to do with the ocean, but this just highlights what happens when an ecosystem goes out of balance. You've got great white sharks here. Apex predators, exactly the same as the lions. Now, they feed on cow-nose rays. Very closely related, both cartilaginous fish. Believe it or not, both their skeletons are made from cartilage. Cow-nose rays feed on scallops. But in a lot of areas of this part of America, scallops here are actually a huge industry. And there was an entire village that made their living from a scallop industry, and it was sustainable. So in the ocean, this is a sort of natural food chain. Now, don't get me wrong, food chains don't really exist. It's more like a very, very complicated web in who eats food, but this is just to simplify it. Now, what happened was the fishermen were successful. They were fishing the scallops, and they had a sustainable industry, and they were making money. Then the shark fin industry comes in. Now what they do is they catch the shark to take off their fins, which are purely made for cartilage. This is what they want. They will cut them off, just this part here, and throw the rest of the shark into the ocean. Now, I think it was 2 years ago, the estimated number of recorded shark death was 73 million. 73 million sharks in 1 year, and that's recorded. Imagine what's not recorded. That's devastating. Whether you like sharks or whether you don't, that is enough to wipe out an entire ecosystem. So what happened? They became locally extinct in that area of the US. I think Kalamba's loving my story. So no more sharks. What's going to happen to the cow-nose rays? They're going to exponentially increase, and they are said to go back up by 8% immediately. Now, that is a lot. So then what's going to happen to the scallops? Their predators are absolutely blown out of proportion. And what happened to the scallops? Sorry, it's very windy. no more scallops. What did that have on the effect of the industry? Wiped it out. What effect did that have on the fishermen? They lost their jobs. The industry was no longer sustainable. So this was a trophic cascade and a complete collapse just because the predators were removed. Now, things like this can happen naturally due to disease, but when humans come into it, that's what I was trying to explain. An ecosystem will always strive for balance. Predators are here to control the prey populations. The prey populations need to be kept in check for the next line, be it vegetation, be it scallops. Everything needs to be kept in check. Strive for balance. And the minute that balance is offset, it needs to be set right again. So that was the sort of cascade that we looked at. I don't think we can see Tlalamba, but we can try and look at the wild basil once again. And I just thought that's such a great example of what can actually happen. And it can also happen here in a terrestrial ecosystem. All the organisms are interconnected. So change at one level is going to have so many implications, some of them that I don't believe we fully realize. And the wolves of Yellowstone are a perfect example. They had to reintroduce the wolves at Yellowstone in order to control the elk populations. So the wolves were eradicated because they were thought to be vermin. But then the elk populations went out of control, which had a knock-on effect on all the woody plants. And therefore the entire vegetation was starting to suffer from this. So in order to help the woody plant recover and bring back the sort of integrity of the vegetation, they had to reintroduce the predators that they'd actually eradicated 70 years earlier in order to control the elk population. So wolves do kill the elk, but that's necessary. That's important. So that's the story I was trying to tell you earlier, but maybe it's a good thing I didn't get to finish it because you got to see my wonderful artistic drawings. Did you like them, Simon?
I did.
I think he's lying, but he said he did. Yes, trophic cascades. Hello, we're being spoken to by a little kid. Mindy, that's not a trophic cascade. So with regards to elephants, they're actually known as architects or engineers, shall we call them. You can call them whatever you like. But basically, by them knocking over the vegetation, although it seems so destructive to us, and it does, it seems, we see the trees go over and we think, oh my goodness. Oh, there you go, there's a leopard there. Well done, Tlalamba. Elephants are actually keystone species. And the influence, what a keystone species does is they're crucial in their influence the health or the functioning of an ecosystem. And the loss of a keystone species can bring an ecosystem to grind it to a halt, basically. So although we see an elephant pushing over a tree and crunching all the vegetation, what's actually happening is they're bioengineers. It's fundamental for this ecosystem here in the low veld that elephants do that. They have a positive ecological role, although it doesn't look like that immediately because it looks very destructive. So fallen trees will provide browse at ground level, create microhabitats for breeding and the survival of ground creatures. Nutrients from fallen trees are also recycled into the nutrient cycle. That's one of the most fundamental parts of ecology, of life out here. The recycling of nutrients needs to go back into the ground, needs to keep cycling, or they would never survive out here. And lots of different organisms are important for that, be it termites. But by pushing over trees, as elephants do, it puts nutrients back into the soil, which is really what is required out here. And also fruit. Any tree that's got fruit is pushing it on the ground for those smaller animals to reach. So what I'm trying to say is elephants are the driving force in the maintenance of the bush veld habitat. So it's not really a trophic cascade as such. It's a little bit different, but they are engineering the landscape. I hope that answered your question. It's not a collapse in a food chain. And the shark was really just a simple example. There's lots of different examples of trophic cascades and collapse in various different ecosystems and the breakdown of chains and the breakdown of webs. Hannah, you are age 13. Wow. It's been a long time since I was 13, but I remember it well. Now, a keystone species, a sort of definition for that is a species that has a really disproportionately large effect on its natural environment due to its abundance. And it was a concept that was introduced by a zoologist whose name completely slips me right now, of course. But you'll have terrestrial keystone species and you'll also have marine keystone species. And it's an organism that basically helps hold the system together. So a complete wipeout of that one species would break down an entire system and it would look completely different, if that makes sense. So that's the definition of a keystone species. And there's lots of them. Some starfish in the ocean, believe it or not, are keystone species. Elephants are keystone species. Beavers is an example in North America of a keystone species. Sharks. I know this is all very general, but it really depends on the ecosystem that you're looking at and the environment that you're looking at. It will change. Not every ecosystem is the same. So there's just some examples for you. A lot of predators are keystone species, be it sharks in the ocean or tigers and cats out here, because they are the ones to help control the populations, like I mentioned. They weed out the old, the sick and the weak, and they control the prey population, which in effect controls the sort of vegetation, be it terrestrial vegetation or even algae. That's also important underwater. So that's some examples of keystone species for you. So an elephant's definitely a keystone species, but you can also call it an ecosystem engineer. Thank you, FC. Thank you. Okay, the zoologist that I was trying to remember there, which completely slipped my mind, FC said is Robert Payne. That's it. Thank you so much. I studied zoology, and we always had to remember the names of scientists. And, you know, I'm getting old. But ecology is a wonderful concept, and the reason being is that there's lots of different principles, but in theory, nothing stays the same. And a really good example of what I'm trying to say about everything being offset is cute aggression. So I don't know if you'll know what I mean, but whenever I see a puppy or one of the hyena cubs, I feel like, oh, it's so cute, I just want to squeeze you. Completely unnecessary reaction and a very strange one. I have so much love for these animals, I don't want to hurt them, but I just feel this, I want to squeeze. I really hope you all understand what I mean and you all feel the same, otherwise you will think I'm very bizarre, but that's called cute aggression. Now, what's happening there in really simple terms is that your body and your brain is being overwhelmed by dopamine and all these feelings of love that you feel for this animal, this puppy or this kitten. So it's overwhelming to the brain, the dopamine that you're feeling. So how the brain and the body tries to offset that before you go completely cuckoo with too much love is by putting in a little dash of aggression. So the aggression offsets the love. So that's exactly... Sorry, Elton's asking me a very long question. Yes, I can't remember what I was saying. So yes, the body offsets that by a dash of aggression, and that's why they call it cute aggression. It's only recently been sort of studied in science, and that's a great example of your body trying to maintain balance, always striving for balance. There's always an offset within your body, homeostasis. Sorry, Elton, I really did not get any element of that question. I apologize. Millie, you're 9 years old and you're asking about a species and you're asking me, is it true? But I'm not getting the species. I'll wait till Elton repeats it. Beaver. Yes, Minnie, I actually just mentioned that a few seconds ago. Beavers in North America are definitely keystone species. Oh, B, sorry. We're really struggling here, aren't we? Apologies. It depends on the ecosystem, to be honest, but they are extremely important pollinators. So I would imagine they would term them as keystone species, yes. Because if you remove bees, then depending on where you are in the world, the entire pollination of flowers and plants could absolutely collapse. Pollination is a wonderful topic, and it's so important. Sometimes it's overlooked. So honeybees would definitely be a keystone species. Well done, Minnie. Their role is so important in the pollination, and that's the way that some plants reproduce. So if the bees are not there, then no pollination occurs, which means the plants can't reproduce. So how can they survive? Excellent question. Sorry, it took me a little bit longer to get there. Pollination is actually just a process where pollen is transferred from the anther, which is a male part of the flower, to the stigma, which is the female part. And that's why it's reproduction. That's really what pollination is. And pollen is just a sort of really fine yellow dust that you see on a flower, and it needs to be spread. It can be spread in such a number of ways, but insects are definitely responsible for a bulk of that. It can also be bats, beetles, butterflies, hummingbirds, moths. Moths are also excellent pollinators, and they're not really recognized so much because they do it all at nighttime. Giraffes are actually said to be incredible pollinators of the knobthorn flowers. They're very important for the knobthorns out here. And what do honeybees get from it, Minnie? Well, they're actually eating the pollen. So they do eat it, and they're getting lots of protein and nectar brings carbohydrates. But they don't realize they're getting pollen all over their face and all over their bodies. It sticks to them. They're just eating. They're just having the best time having some food. And it's only when they go to the next flower to eat some more that accidentally they're transferring the pollen. They're not intentionally doing it. It's all by accident, just by going from flower to flower. They're always looking for nectar, and they're always looking for pollen. Flowers are just a one-stop ship. They get everything in one go. And that's why it's hard to follow pollination, because they're very fast, they're very quick. Okay, I really do hope Kalamba pops her head up soon and we get a beautiful view of our princess. Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Joomla. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephant, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. Absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
No, it's fine, I'll talk about it. Thank you very much. So we now still in a search, but now all the time when we find elephants or any of the animal that they're most a grazer, they spend a lot of time around the mound. But we look here, these mound, that which you see, it's all covered with the grasses. And these grasses is all animals they have, and it's all about them covering and growing healthy around the mound, where the mound it's actually have a clear soil where the grass is growing normally in this mound. It's very, the nutrition is high. Now we're talking about the buffalo grasses most. Those are sustainable grasses this time of year, all year round, through winters, even though dried out brownie. And they're still very good nutrition for animals. Those are grazers, the buffalo grasses, the species. But also along the line, you got a lot of different species of grasses, but not all of them that actually have a greater nutrition for most animals. And buffalo grass specifically, red grass is called oats grasses as well, but there are also signal grasses, which is those are the grasses that grow mostly signal grasses in a very open land. Some are mixed to this buffalo grass, but buffalo grass is under a tree most. But this is a time where these grasses will mostly drop their seed just before the winter to regenerate the new growth for the next season coming, the next rain. So we're checking around the border here to see if there is anything, tracks to follow. Could be any elephants, could be any lions, which I'll be happy to find lions moving about. You know, it's great temperature for them to be able to do the exercise. So we're gonna move on, see, check the northern. So Cage, you're asking if it's difficult to find animals when it's raining. If they are static, you don't see them yet. It is difficult. And then if they're moving, then that's where you're gonna see their tracks then. Then the rain is gonna be stopped, just like now. It's stopped a little bit. So any track that we're gonna see, it's gonna be very fresh or new tracks for us to follow. And it's only the thing, you know, if it's wet, then you won't off-road, but in some area. But otherwise, you know, yeah, it is easy to track. If you find a track and it's all on top of the wet. Sorry, you want to repeat that question again? And you're asking glass can be used by human.
Sorry about that. Don't know what happened to Andrew, but I'm sure he'll be back with us very shortly. We managed to reposition him. We can see now 10 rosettes rather than one. And we see an ear. A Tingana ear, that's for sure. Now, just going back to pollination, because it's a really fascinating topic. I know we're looking at a leopard, but I'm trying to do a bit more ecology here. And Minnie's question was also awesome. And there was a flower that I was also trying to remember this morning. I think the heat was getting to me, and it's actually the world's largest flower. And it belongs to the genus Rafflesia, or Rafflesia. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. And it's basically native and found in Southeast Asia. And is pollinated by blowflies. So the blowflies are the main pollinators of the largest plant in the entire world. And I wrote this down for you all because it made me laugh so much. Are you ready? Instead of having a scent of warm summer sun meeting a cool evening breeze with a hint of amber and sensual vanilla. No. This flower, not only is it large in size, but in order to attract the blowflies, they need the blowflies to come for pollination. They can't survive without them. So you've got to attract them. So instead of speaking the language of humans or the perfume industry, you need to speak the language of blowflies. Talk to the blowflies and they will come. And how do you do that? Well, you just have to smell like a dead animal, I'm afraid. Not even that. You need to smell like a dead animal who has been lying in the heat, like this morning, for a number of days. Yes, can you believe it? That is what the largest flower in the world smells like. It's not like amber or sensual vanilla. No, it is like a dead animal. Putrid carcass, rotting flesh. And if you're a blowfly, it's completely irresistible to you. You cannot resist it. And therefore, you come along and you end up pollinating the largest flower in the world, Rafflesia. So the flowers have to speak the language of the insects. We think that a lot of flowers smell wonderful. Maybe Tlalamba thinks that the wild basil just smells great. But if it doesn't speak to the insects, then their pollination is not going to happen. And of course, it's not just scent, it's also color. When I say speak the language, I'm using that as a metaphor. It's a way to communicate. It can be color, but it can also be scent. And there's a really, really funny example I was reading about, and it's one of the orchid species that you find in Europe. And it's got really gorgeous brownish bluish flowers, and it looks just like the female of a digger wasp. So basically, it's speaking to the digger wasp males by color, by appearance, not through scent. So a newly hatched digger wasp, who's maybe a little bit confused, is dominated by one thought, of course, and that's to mate with the ladies. So what does he do? He tries to mate with the flower. He spends a lot of time trying to romance and court with the flower. And he's not going to get anywhere. He's not going to successfully reproduce, I'll tell you that. But what he doesn't know is that he's picking up all sorts of pollen. And by the time he goes to the next flower to try and mate with that flower, he's actually pollinating all the orchids. But don't worry, it's not all for nothing if you're worried about the poor digger wasps. Eventually, the females do hatch a few weeks later, and the males will naturally start courting and mating with the females. But the orchid makes sure that the males will be attracted to them, being slightly confused. So pollination goes so much deeper than you would think it does. And the flowers are speaking to the insect. They're not speaking to us. They're not brightly colored for humans. They don't smell great for humans. No, they're speaking the language of the insects. Or the pollinators. I shouldn't actually say insects. That's wrong. Any of the pollinators. Sorry, Elton, one more time with that question. Hello, Tlalamba. Oh, we are one sleepy cat. I'm not entirely sure what your question means, Linda. Humans are obviously mammals, and there's a very fascinating book called Homo Sapiens. It's a very heavy book. I definitely have not finished it. You should ask Darby how he's getting on with that. I think he keeps falling asleep on page 2. But our Latin name is Homo Sapiens, but there's a lot of history there when you go back to humans. We are classified as primates, and we belong to the mammal group. I hope that's what you mean. But we're definitely animals, 100%. We've just taken a little bit of a different turn in terms of evolution. But we definitely belong to the animal kingdom. Please let me know if that answered your question, Linda. Sorry, Elton. Just a leopard lover. Have leopards been seen eating something? Simon's laughing at me. Fruits. That's a good one. Leopards are classified as hypercarnivores, leopard lover. So there's different sort of levels of being a carnivore. Believe it or not, you're not just a carnivore. Just comes from a Latin word meaning flesh devourers. You can be a hypercarnivore, you can be a mesocarnivore, or a hypocarnivore. And leopards are naturally hypercarnivores, which means they're obligate carnivores. And they will eat above 70% meat. They cannot properly digest vegetation. Therefore, I'm not sure. I've never seen a leopard eat a piece of fruit, but they possibly, maybe when they're cubs, when they're young and they're trying to understand, ooh, what is this? They may nibble it. It's possibly been seen, but their sort of stomach and their digestive process is not equipped to deal with the breakdown of vegetation. But as for fruit, I'm honestly not sure. They probably do supplement at some point in their life. I would imagine so. Okay, so at least we've got a slightly better visual of Tlalamba here, but we're going to send you over to Andrew, who at least has some elephants.
Thank you very much, Lauren. So, sorry, Ian. I still haven't really completed your question about the grasses, buffalo grasses, whether it's used by human or not at all. So now I got you back, and I know we've got elephants right here on the side. But so red grasses or oats grasses, that's been used by local people to shelter the house, as well as normal fetching grasses, which though they come sometimes rare in a village, those grasses, and they were relying on red grass that time. So buffalo grass mainly for grazing, animal grazing value, which is great. Now we've got an elephant. So beautiful to find an elephant in this cooler weather already. And it's so amazing how she selects a little piece of branches out of that tree to put in the mouth. She's actually browsing, but around her the old grass is all buffalo grass we were just talking about earlier. That's right in front of her. See how it's actually nice falling trees, but this grass has taken place immediately. Sorry, can you repeat that question again? Oh, Paul, so you're asking if elephants do ever eat thorn bushes? So they do. All trees, acacia trees that they love the most. Acacia trees are the one of the thorniest tree out here. As you can see, this is actually in a fallen tree. It's a little thorn that you can see in a dry wood. It's already in a dry bushes there. But acacias, nigraceous trees, most no thorns. Could be one of those. Sickle bush as well, thorn. A hook thorn, some of the trees it has, and they still go through them. So physically, when they eat branches with the medium of a thorn, it's all about that they have no choice. They cannot select very much in time. So they just gonna reposition here. So Linda, you're asking how much does an elephant full-grown weigh? So females weigh less, weighs anything 3.5 tons to 4 tons, can be 4.5 tons. Where male, they weigh 6 tons roughly. Fully grown male would weigh 6 tons. And I know I've just lost our elephants. Oh, still back there. I'm gonna reverse. Then it's been a record of a male way more than that. On some research say so, which yes, they weigh that much. Just gonna keep distance because now they kind of look separate. One is far there and then she's separate on the far side. Just hiding behind the bushes. They're quite big animal, but they're easy to be vanished sometimes into this thicket. So we're gonna move forward. Hopefully there is more a member here. Because it looks like a herd as a female. So with a young one moves a different way. So I believe there could be more along the road. Since can't off-road this time, so since it was actually heavy rain that came down, we'll stop. So we're just going to search if there's any of these elephants close to the road around here. Searching for more of this group of elephants, I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren with a sleepy leopard.
Look at the weather up above us. Heavy clouds. Full of the liquid of life, I imagine. Now, the weather has really sort of shook across South Africa. We got hit with the storm quite early on. And if any of you were watching a dam cam, you'll know in South Africa it was what we call a hectic one. Very, very heavy rains, thunder and lightning. But luckily it's passed, but it has moved on to other locations. That's why there's not so many locations out today, I'm afraid. They've all been hit by a storm. Safety first, especially when you've got a huge antenna sticking out your vehicle. But luckily, Andrew and I are out here in Joomla and we're able to show you some of the African wild. So apologies about the other location. It's summer, and summer normally brings thunderstorms. But it's good. Once the ground is nourished with liquid and that sun comes back out, it will bring joy and a lot more life around here. So yes, hopefully the other locations will pop back out, or they'll at least be out with us tomorrow. Hopefully Tlalamba will get up very soon. There's no other vehicle out on drive at the moment. There was just one who's also decided to leave. And I think, again, that's just due to the weather. So that's why I don't want to leave Tlalamba in case we lose her. She will get active. 100%. And from what we could witness earlier, she does look hungry. Now, just going back to digestion, because it was interesting when you mentioned when you talk about carnivores and eating fruit. Carnivores have a far less complicated digestive system than herbivores. Herbivores can have multiple stomach pouches, ruminants, for example. Whereas carnivores just really have a sort of monochamber, just like us. Our esophagus runs into the stomach, and then there's obviously the small intestine and the large intestine, but it's generally simple. And that's because they don't need to process or digest cellulose. They don't need to break it down. They don't need to chew the cud. They don't need to sort of put a lot of effort into their digestion. After all, it really is just meat. In cats, another reason I believe you may not see cats eat fruit so much is that they have a really high diet in protein naturally, and fats. By eating other animals, you're getting your fats. It's quite low in carbs. But you need glucose to fuel the brain. Any animal, any mammal needs glucose to fuel the brain. And glucose can actually be synthesized by different amino acids. And when it comes to amino acids, are obviously your building blocks of protein, which the cats will get from their prey, so there's no issue there. But when it comes to your vitamins, that's the interesting part with cats, because as far as vitamins go, cats actually need a completely different range of vitamins, if you like, than other animals. And when it comes to vitamin C, also known as ascorbic acid, their bodies can actually synthesize it. They can make, or synthesize is the correct word, their own ascorbic acid. How do they do that? They get it from the carbs that they sometimes get from their preys. So within the prey's stomach, there's going to be a little bit of vegetative matter. And in eating that, the partially digested plant matter, they're getting carbs. And from the carbs, they're able to synthesize their own vitamin C. So therefore, I really don't think there's any need for cats to eat fruit. I really think it would be just your cubs or your young ones that are possibly just experimenting. They don't need vitamin C. vitamin requirements are generally defined on a per species basis anyway. It's not the same across the board. So I don't imagine we'll ever drive onto quarantine and see Tlalamba happily snacking on a marula. It'd be fascinating, but I don't think it's going to happen. It's now almost 6 o'clock here. And on a hot day, this is normally the sort of time of day that you'll start to see the predators getting up because they've been sleeping all day. I didn't catch that name, but humans can't synthesize ascorbic acid, vitamin C. We cannot. We obtain it from the food that we eat, and that's why we're always encouraged to eat our fruits and eat our vegetables. We can also take supplements if we feel we need a little boost. A lot of us take supplements these days, and we cannot synthesize our own vitamin C, I'm afraid, and that's what makes the cats rather unique. As humans, we will have completely different vitamin requirements than most of the organisms out here, especially your feline species. But after a hypercarnivore, a mesocarnivore really depends on meat for 50% of its diet. They will supplement with fruits, vegetables, even fungi, actually. And in your hypocarnivores, they will only eat meat around 30% of below. So hypocarnivore, is what we would call an omnivore, a very mixed diet. But your predators are definitely your hypercarnivores. And that comes with physiological adaptations. Just like Tlalamba, heavy skull, lots of strong facial muscles, carnassial shear, claws. All of these sort of features assist with a diet that's predominantly meat. Carly, yes, absolutely. They are territorial individuals. They are driven by different forces. The size differs. Males generally have large territories, but Karula, an older leopardess, the original queen around here, she had a huge territory for a female. But males are driven to expand their territories quickly, get a large territory which encompasses a number of females within it, and therefore your mating opportunities are right on your doorstep. Most female territories are smaller, and they sit within the dominant male's territory. They are driven by setting up shop in an area that has great access to resources, water and food, because they need to get ready for reproducing. Reproducing comes with not only mating, which is very exhausting for the cats, they really exhaust themselves, pregnancy, which takes up a lot of their energy, lactation, and then rearing. So the female's priorities are resources, and of course that's important for a male too, but he's also driven by ensuring that a number of females reside in his territory. So yes, females are absolutely territorial. You will see Tlalamba behave in a territorial manner. You'll see her scent mark. You'll see her call. You'll see her scrape. She also has to defend her territory. In order to be socially dominant, in order to be a territory holder, you have to spend energy. You have to put effort in. You have to go on patrol. You have to be willing to fight. You have to be willing to claim that territory as your own. It's not easy. If you don't defend it, then someone else can come in. Most animals, or most organisms out here, including your small little insects, will have a home range, but that's different from a territory. Sorry, I'll send one more time. I didn't catch that name, but you're asking, will littermates recognize each other? Highly likely by scent. It's very, very likely that it won't be through visual, but it will be through scent. They're highly olfactory beings. They've got lots of chemoreceptors. They can navigate their landscape through understanding chemicals in the air. And it's most likely they would. Doesn't mean they will socialize when they're older, when they become adults. It doesn't mean that they will spend time together, but as in recognition, I would imagine so. They would recognize that scent. Jim Wood, leopards are very famous for having a sweet-smelling urine. And it's really, really lovely. Sorry, my game drive radio is all of a sudden beeping and saying emergency alarm. Just let me turn that off. Don't quite know what's happening there. But yes, it does smell like popcorn, and both males and females will smell like popcorn. I personally feel like the males, or a male's urine is stronger, but I'm imagining that other people will disagree. Females do smell like popcorn too, and it's a chemical called 2-AP. That's the shorthand for 2-acetyl-1-pyrroline. If you fancied the chemical formula, there you have it. And when popcorn kernels are heated, when you actually put a bag of kernels in the microwave, the proteins and the sugars inside are actually creating a chemical reaction is happening there due to heat. You've already got the proteins, you've already got the sugars, and you're adding heat. So a chemical reaction is taking place. And that reaction produces ATP in popcorn that you are eating, believe it or not. And therefore, that's why it's exactly the same chemical that you find in leopard urine, as well as genets, and as well as the binturong. Such a cute mammal, I recommend you Google it. And it's the same chemical found in popcorn, and that's why it smells the same. It's really lovely. It's not foul or disgusting in any manner, but they both do smell the same. I just always feel that the males smell slightly stronger. Of course, leopards would not identify it as popcorn. Marley, you're asking, is scent marking the same as urine? Scent marking is the act of leaving your scent. So I think what you're trying to say is the marking fluid that they're using the same as urine. Yes, I think that's what you're asking. It's called marking fluid, but yes, it's pretty much from the bladder. There's a little separate pouch that they hold it in. But yes, it's very much down to urine. It's very, very similar to urine. And they just use that to scent mark. So scent marking is the act that they're doing, whether it's urinating, defecating. They can also leave their scent on the vegetation from their cheeks. That's all a form of scent marking. But the fluid that's coming out of them when they are marking, they call that marking fluid. And yes, it's urine. And it contains all the sort of chemicals and information that others will understand, others of the same species. I'm a female. I'm territorial. I'm an estrus. I'm not an estrus. And other leopards will understand that. At least we're getting a little bit more active. Marginally so. But scent marking takes a lot of energy. It's not just easy to sort of start scent marking. They've got to go on patrol, they've got to weave through all the vegetation, they've got to call, they've got to scrape, they've got to constantly scoosh their urine, which is no easy task. We're right on the edge of quarantine. You can't see the impala anymore at all, but they'll be there. So there's a very high chance Kalamba might get up and head straight there. Taylor, you're 7 years old, and I think, to be perfectly honest with you, it's just comfortable. It's really just comfortable. Yes, it keeps her camouflage, but I wouldn't imagine it's for her safety. I imagine it will be to camouflage her from others. She doesn't want the impala to know she's here. She doesn't want anyone to know she's here. She wants to remain hidden. She needs to remain hidden. Leopards are very stealthy that way. And therefore, I imagine that's why she's chosen. She came here because she was stalking the impala. And I think they were just too far away and she needed a cat nap. Literally. So it's comfortable, lying on a nice bed of grass, and it means she's hidden. She's probably not thinking about her safety. She's probably thinking about her next meal. Leopards always want to remain hidden. We just get very lucky when we bump into them out here. Okay, so I'm going to sit here a little bit longer and hopefully Kalamba gets up, but for now, over to Andrew.
Thanks, Lauren. So on our search, we got a white-backed vulture sitting in a dry wood. You know, I'm trying to check around here to see if there is more of them, but no, it's only one individual. So we're not sure, maybe it's perching there for a reason, because there's scavenger as well. And they actually hunt very well, but only when it's an open sky they can able to fly up, circle around in the air. When they do that, it's where they will pick up scents of anything that died and they will respond to it. So all birds, when it's wind, especially on the eagles and the vultures, because they gotta be, even when it's pouring rain, they don't seek for a hide. They would be probably patching in the very open. So it's always important for them when they look away or they face the wind. So then their feather can still control, not too fluffy, and it will get colder then. So if there's definitely something around here, it's going to be around for quite a long time, probably joined by the other member. But you know, before we move out of here, I'm going to check, because we can't find where Tingana has gone into since that last day we saw him lying in a piece of branches. There's not much of a shade in there. Roman, so you're asking if the vulture can fly in the rain? Yes, they can. Most of the bird can fly in the rain when they have to, when they're disturbed, but then it becomes very difficult for them because it's a heavyweight feather, but they would fly. But if they're not disturbed, rather perch and until they dry it off. So they don't actually really, when they will hunt hoping to find something that died already and then respond to it. So they are scavenger only. It looks like now it's putting its head up a little bit. I don't know, it's probably disturbed, or off it goes. It's very difficult, you know, we've got a roof here, so we're going to search around to find out what is happening in this area. Find out maybe there is something that we're not sure or we don't know about. So I'm going to investigate the area, check where I could.
Now, Tlalamba is sleeping, and I think I'm going to check the hyena den in just a moment. Fortunately, we're having issues with our IR light, and we will not, absolutely not, view animals with spotlight, as you know, any artificial light. So what that means is Andrew's going to take over Tlalamba, because she's definitely going to get up at some point, and I'll bumble on, see what else I can find, and hopefully the hyena den will be active. So I just need to direct Andrew in. It's not a hard place to find, it's just she's rather flat. In fact, she's so flat. We call it lalapanzi on the radio. It's a Zulu word, and it just means sleepy. So when we say that, it means flat cat. So Andrew can take over, and that means you can view Tlalamba. And they have IR, which is fantastic. But I think this is also the perfect time to check the hyena den. Some wet and soggy hyena cups for you all. Sam, I'm not sure I could answer that question. I'm afraid I obviously have only been here a short time. Habituation process has been going on for a very long time. And a lot of the leopards here have been around a long time. So for the likes of Tlalamba, she started seeing vehicles at a very, very young age, when she was still in the den. That's perfect. She's completely relaxed. She walks right in front of your car. She sleeps next to your car. She's used to it. She's used to the sounds and the smells. And that's because her mother was also relaxed. And she's seen it since she was a cub. It's not a threat. It's not something that's going to come and steal her food or harm her or injure her. And it's just very easy to habituate a leopard when they're younger. Now, from my experience here, and at least in this area, Mowati has been very tricky for us all. He's thought to be the dominant male in the area, and we can hardly spend any time with him, which is so unfortunate. When Tingana really was in his prime as a dominant male, you can obviously spend a lot of time in his presence. But with Mowati, we all talk about it, the north, south, east and western properties. We just can't seem to be able to get Mowati in a sighting where we can start that habituation process. Obviously, it's more difficult with adults. So I think my answer to that, from my experience in my short time here, would definitely be Mowati. Sorry, Elton, one more time. Linda's difficult to say because unfortunately she can't talk to us, but I would say yes. Normally, most predators sleep with sort of half an ear to the ground, if you like. I say this every time, but I always call it the biscuit tin effect with my beagle. It's just remarkable. That dog will be snoring her head off. The minute you open that biscuit tin, my goodness, she's on her feet, alert, and you would never have assumed that 5 seconds earlier she was snoring. And it has no foundation in science, but it's a similar principle to the predators. They have to be alert, very much so. And threats are all around. Potential danger is all around. Another leopard could come. Lions could come. So she's definitely sleeping. You can see that. But I would imagine that she's completely aware of her surroundings. Hypersensitive, I would call it, because she has to.
Lorraine, where do you think is the best approach from the main entrance?
Not sure where you are, Andrew, but I think just make your way to Timbetta.
Now I'm traveling from Gary Dam, so probably come from the entrance then.
Yes, come up Wahlberg's Nest Road and you'll see us straight away on your right.
Okay. See you now.
Okay, so I've forgotten what I was saying now. But even as a guide, you have to be hyper aware, hypersensitive, hyper alert when you're on drives. That's why we sometimes get extremely tongue-tied and a little bit discombobulated, as I like to say, because we're multitasking, because you always have to be aware. Always look at your surroundings, always know what's going on. Although being a guide is so fabulous, especially for all of you guys. I don't just have 6 guests on the back, I have everybody that's watching. You really do have to pay attention and know how to handle situations. This environment belongs to the animals. It's a wild space. You are just a visitor. I am just a visitor. And although we tease and we joke about the animals, it's their environment. We mustn't damage it. We mustn't destroy the environment, which is exactly why Michelle said today, no off-roading. Now, maybe I could off-road and it would be fine, but no. There's been far too much rain, and therefore we need to protect the integrity of the landscape, the integrity of the soil. So that's why we make those calls. We're still not driving the Mulwati. We did a test the other day with this cat here. She was part of the test, but it's still sort of not stable enough to drive, if you like. We must ensure that we make the right decisions as humans to protect the integrity of the environment. And once there's moisture, of course, that makes things a little bit tricky. So we're lucky that Tlalamba's here, believe it or not, or it could get rather tricky. Oh, are you going to get up for Andrew now? Okay. I see how this is working. Matt, you're 7 years old and you're asking, do we use the walkie-talkies all the time? Walkie-talkies, I love that. Yes, we call it a game drive radio. And don't tell anyone, Matt, but it can be rather annoying. But yes, we talk to each other because we have to. We have to call in our sightings, share the sightings, share the information, and guide one another in. And I'm not just talking about Andrew and I'm talking about all the lodges, all the areas can get very busy. And sightings are actually controlled, believe it or not. So you're only allowed 3 vehicles in a sighting at a time. And therefore, someone has to control the lock, and that's what we call it. We call it a lock. I am now on lock with Tlalamba, and I can allow 2 other vehicles to come in. And then we rotate. You pull out of the lock and other vehicles can come in to see her. But if it's a really sensitive sighting, and we use that word a little bit loosely, we then say it's a brand new cubs or young offspring, or maybe there's an animal giving birth or a seriously injured animal. You would call that a sensitive sighting, and you would block that off. So you would maybe come on the radio and say, "Good afternoon, stations. We have a sensitive sighting on Gowrie Main, 1 vehicle allowed only." And you would obviously explain what the sighting is. And it's to ensure the safety of the animals and just to control the game drives. You can't have everyone bombarding a sighting. That's not fair. As I said, this is their landscape, this is their land. Isn't that right, Princess? Now, I do believe Andrew is right behind me. So I am going to pull out of this lock and hand over the lock to Andrew. And what that means is that he can at least stay with her once it gets too dark, because on a day like today, it's going to get very dark quickly, I'm afraid, due to the weather conditions. So I'm now going to drive away just as she gets up. How typical is that? Bye, Tlalamba. And Andrew's going to come in. just making sure he knows the right spot. Okay, I think he's got it. There we go. Sorry, Elton, I think you're blowing a little bit too hard into the thing. I cannot hear you. But let's try one more time. No, the question's from you, Matt, and I'm ready to answer it. Matt, shall I show you? I'm going to show you because I know you're very interested in walkie-talkies. I have two. When I say we multitask here, I mean we multitask. We have 3 radios to monitor during a drive. That's why sometimes we forget what we're saying. This is a radio that I use to talk to FC. I'm talking to Elton. Elton, come in. He can hear that and he's going to respond. This radio, we talk to FC, our final control, the people that give me the questions from you, Matt. That's one radio. And then we use this radio, and this is known as a game drive. And I'm not, well, actually. Andrew, come in.
Hi, Urine, I'm standing by.
Just a test. So this is how we talk to each other, but everyone can hear this in the entire area. So we have to be very sensible on this radio, and sadly I can't keep it. It's attached to the car, and then there's another radio for a different channel. It's very busy in this car. But we are heading to the hyena den, and now we're going to send you over to another location.
Alrighty, welcome back to Punda. The weather this side has been pretty disastrous. It's been spitting on and off, but hasn't been raining too hard, which is quite nice for us. But there's quite a wind blowing, and we've been driving around for ages trying to see if we can find anything, and we've seen so few animals. It's amazing how when the weather's like this, the animals just disappear. Now, what happens is a lot of the animals that are prey animals rely quite heavily on their sense of smell and hearing to become aware of predators. So what they do when the wind starts blowing, because the wind compromises both of those senses quite substantially, they move into thick areas. So you can see this really thick kind of drainage basin in front of us here. We stopped and there was some impala and zebra that we were hoping to show you guys, but even the more open plains game are moving down into these thicker sections now. And unfortunately, the predators also tend to follow them, so they know that they're heading to thicker areas, so leopards and lions will kind of follow them down into these thicker areas. We are in an area that's really quite good for leopard, so we're holding our thumbs that something will turn up. There's 2 females that are competing for territory in this area here, so hopefully in a little while we can find them, one of them, or even just some tracks or signs of one of them. Because there are 2 animals in this area, it increases our chances quite substantially. You can see the really beautiful clouds over and above us here. They are moving quite quickly. Actually, it would make a beautiful time lapse. The reason I became a guide. So I am a wildlife filmmaker, and I have been for the last, been a guide for the last 1.5 years, but before then was filming wildlife for about 2 years. but anyone who's in the industry or trying to get into the industry will know that it's quite a tricky industry to get into. So the advice that I was given by a lot of people in industry was to come guide and get some bush experience. I grew up on a farm in the Western Cape, so and it was a natural decision to come guide. It took a little while. I'm a little bit of a water baby, so it took me a while to get away from the sea and come to the bush. But Phinda is not a bad place to be. Sodwana Bay is one of the most beautiful dive places in South Africa. I think in the world, actually. The marine life in Sodwana Bay is really quite an incredible. The reef ecosystems there, so that's about an hour and a half away from where we are now. Not many places in the world where you can be in the bush and be close to the ocean. So I'm really happy with the position of Phinda and where I am, and really enjoying the bush. It's a beautiful place to be. Really special to get to sit with animals all the time, watch their behavior, get to chat to you guys. Louisa, my favorite thing about being in Phinda, of Phinda is an amazing it's really quite incredible. We've got a great diversity of habitats here, which means there's a great diversity of bird species, animal species. Can sometimes, like we, which is not ideal, more rewarding when you do manage to find animals. We're just going to carry on heading up the road here a little bit. I believe potentially a little bit of excitement happening up ahead. But yeah, no, Phinda's an incredible space, and it kind of is positioned in a really beautiful part of South Africa as well. I've spent much time up in the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal, and I hadn't spent any time up here actually. I hadn't come past Durban, and Eswatini is just around the corner. Mozambique's not far away.
Thank you very much. So now we take a turn here to the Tlalamba the leopard, and she's still lying, but her head up. There's all yawns about that maybe she want to get mobile soon. Maybe she's gonna move back to the quarantine, where usually it's a lot of game there. It's quite a beautiful open area. Probably this is where she's gonna spend most of her night, moving around, checking it, possibly the chance that she may catch something. She probably heard something. Sorry, she's actually now getting colder that she might actually be able to move around about for us. So I'm going to stay put here. In the meantime, I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren with a hyena den.
You can stay on me. I'm going to... Okay. Guess where I found everyone? Miss Ribbon. Full and fat. Now, she was just standing up. I tried to catch it for you because you've all been asking me about her limp. How is she walking? How is she limping? And she was just walking. She's still limping quite severely. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't seem to have eased up from what I can gather. But she's full. She's definitely fed since the last time we saw her. I can promise you that. She's back at the den. She's alive and well. And, well... she's very well, I think. What did you eat, Ribs? All the cubs are out too, at least 4 of them that I can see so far. And I'm just happy to see Ribbon. Hopefully she'll stand up and we'll get a good view before we leave too much light. But I know many of you have been a little bit worried about her. I have too. I wonder if are we able to get any closer into her legs, Simon? Oh, that's a bit X-rated. I can't really... Oh, well, she's putting weight on it. She's leaning on it, so it can't be too severe. Nah, Ribbon's going to be fine. She'll be absolutely fine. Maybe just because she's slightly older, the limp will take a little bit longer to heal. It's so good to see her. I've been coming here every day, hoping to see that ear. That butterfly ear. And it's only really been heart. But luckily Ribbon's here. Ribbon's ear is here. This is perfect conditions for a hyena den to be active. It's cool, cloudy. I'm just really glad I got to show you all that. I think we're going to reposition slightly to get a better view of the cubs.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
What makes Anbi-on-Pinder Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Guys, most unbelievable scene. We came around the corner here. You can see we're really high up on a ridge, and on top of this skinny little tree is a leopard. She's perched up in the top branches and really I'm actually in disbelief. Such a cool scene. The trees, so it's an old tree that's broken down a couple of times. You can see maybe some elephants have come past. There's a branch hanging off to the side and dangling there, and the foliage on top of the tree is really, there's really not very much of it. So she's perched herself up high in this tree on the top. She's been looking in our direction and past us quite a bit, so the wind's coming from behind us, and I think from where she is now, she's got a perfect viewpoint out over the surrounding areas. There's a whole valley to the left that she's looking out over, and might even be looking for opportunities to hunt. From where she is now, she can see really, literally for miles. And just goes to show how quickly a scene can change. We were just chatting about how we are struggling to find animals today and how quiet it's been, and we've come around this corner straight into this leopard. Really amazing, yeah, like I said, tree to see a leopard in as well. I've never seen a leopard in this tree. In fact, I don't think on Pinda I've seen a leopard in a tree this small. She's getting up now. She's looking in our direction. You can see she's, the top part of that tree is not more than double the length of her. She's facing towards us now. Really incredible scenes. If she climbs down the tree, we're going to get such a cool view of her walking down. You can hear the wind coming past us now as well. It's really starting to pick up. We're on a bit of a ridge here, so we're really picking up all the wind where we are. But how unbelievably cool is this scene that we're sitting and watching? In the background of literally directly behind her, we can see some rolling hills, and the last hill on the horizon we can see is the sand dunes of the coast, the coastal dunes, some of the largest coastal dunes in the world. Okay, I think she's going to climb down now. There she goes. Yeah, Linda, really beautiful female, this leopard. We're just gonna get her climbing down now. I think there she goes. She's using that branch that's broken. Oh, it's moving. She looks like she's half sitting, half falling out of the tree at the moment. That is so cool. You can see how beautifully golden her head is compared to the rest of her body. And then as you look towards the underside, you can see, and her back legs and her tail, you can see lots and lots of white. Really magnificent individual. So this will be one of the two females I was telling you about that were competing for a territory. She might have seen something. If she scent marks now, that'll be a really cool indication for us. that she is actually out patrolling her territory and trying to establish her dominance in this area. She's walking around the bottom of that tree quite a bit now. That's incredible, eh? What unbelievable scenes. If she climbs back up the tree, I think she'll just be giving us a show. And she'll already just be, she'll just be showing off. Moving out of frame now. She's actually coming towards us. And if she carries on walking towards us, you'll see that really beautiful white on her chest that I was telling you about. You can see the underside of her tail. Oh, this wind really is picking up now. She's walking into the wind so she can smell everything that's in the direction ahead of her of where she's coming. Okay, she might scent mark against that tree now. No. Not interested in scent marking there. She's just going to cross in front of this other vehicle that's just arrived now. You can see she's walking quite slowly. I'm just going to move. There's a little bit of water up ahead. And if she drinks from where we are now, yeah, she's gone down to drink. You can see there's a little puddle of water. I was telling you earlier about all the rain we've had here in the last couple of days. So there are these little wallows of water that are scattered throughout the reserve. We're on top of a hill now, so there's not often water up here, but really perfect for her. She can see now she's really low down, having a drink at this little pan system that we've got here. The spots on the side of her body, or rosettes as they're called on leopards, really, really beautiful. You can really see she's not the same color and texture all over her body. Her back legs, or the blowdown on her legs, the dots are much more, they're actually dots, and further up they turn into those beautiful rosettes. You can see lower down on her legs there's a lot more light color, and on her top darker. Oh, she's come into the thicket in front of us now, and she's walking straight towards us, lifting her head every now and again, having a smell. That is absolutely magnificent. You can see she's got beautiful long whiskers as well. There's actually a herd of impala on our right here. From where we were earlier, we couldn't see them. She's starting to stalk. You can see her ears have dropped down really low. Her body position's changed quite a lot. The impala, there are a couple impala looking in our direction, but they haven't alarm called yet. We haven't heard anything. She's now really in stalk mode. You can see her body position's changing completely. She's getting super low there. It's not called a leopard crawl for nothing. And you can see she's just raising her head really, really low down there. She's actually, I'm not going to be able to see her. She's going to go out of sight for me. She's just, you can see how she's using all of that cover. There are those thickets, those branches. She's probably less than 50 meters away. She must be nearing 30 meters away from those impala now. There's a big herd of them, and there are lots of little lambs in this area at the moment. Oh, this is so intense. I'm sure those impala are going to bolt at any second. I can't see the leopard now. She stopped. I can just see the back of her ears. So she stopped 30, maybe 40 meters away from the impala. And the impala are most definitely unaware of her. The wind's really strong and blowing across both of them so that neither of them will be able to smell each other. But she's now really, really close. I just want to grab my binoculars here to see if I can see any more. So the impala might actually the herd might extend a little bit further back. We can't see through these thickets now. But there might be other impala further back from the ones we can see that she's having a look at and more interested in. She stopped moving completely. Oh, this is intense. I watched this female stalking impala about a week ago with some guests, and she got really, really close. She gave chase, but they became aware of her split second too early and managed to get away. Those were three males that she stalked, which is a little bit unusual, I suppose, for the leopards on Pinda. They'll normally go after the females and obviously the lambs. And this herd of impala that are here are now very much their lambs. There's females here. I can't see any males. I can only see maybe 20 or 30 females, and I can see some smaller bodies in amongst them. So there's definitely some youngsters in this group. Oh, she's moved. She's moved and I can't see any more. Now the leopard's gone behind the thickets here. Odie, can you see her from the back? No. So, I think she's stalking again, so I think our best bet is going to be just to focus on the impala that we can see, and if she makes a run for it, they are definitely going to break and scatter in all different directions. Unbelievable how close she is to them now. She's really not far away at all. She must be closing the gap now. Maybe 20 meters away from them. She's really within striking distance now. So intense. I've seen leopard get close to animals that they're stalking like this as well, and then just lie down and kind of... I can see some lambs walking out from behind the bush where she was. Oh, they all looked up now. Maybe just become aware of her. Maybe they heard something crunching. The impala are all looking in the same direction. At that distance, it could have even been something like her standing on a twig and it cracking. Or she's moved upwind of them. So she was very much moving in the direction that would take her upwind. But they seem to have adjusted back to not being worried too much. I can see a couple of those impala chewing the cud, so they're not actively grazing at the moment, but regurgitating their food. The female closest to us is looking all over. My goodness, I wonder where she is. She must be in that thicket still. Getting a little bit closer. Ooh. I'm waiting for this all chaos to just erupt here, but it's really putting us on our edge of our seats over here. I can't believe this. She's really playing the patience game here and taking her time. Leopards and other predators often don't get many opportunities to hunt. So when they do get opportunities to hunt, they really need to be patient and take things slow, make sure they're giving themselves the best opportunity to be successful. And she is so close to the impala now. One wrong move and they will become aware of her. So she really needs to make sure that she's doing everything she can to ensure that this is going to be successful for her. Moving really slowly and taking her time is one of those things. Not rushing into it. I've seen many times predators rushing into hunts, taking a bit of a chance early on and it not being successful because of it. But this wind, as I was mentioning earlier, is masking her scent and her sound perfectly. So those impala will, maybe on a windless day, have been able to hear her from a lot longer away. If the wind was swirling and wasn't moving so quickly in one direction, might have blown her scent onto them, but they are completely unaware that there's an animal, especially a leopard, right next to them. She must be, between 15 and 20 meters away from the herd now. And they're still very much just busy feeding. You can see they are very aware. They're looking up often, looking around, looking left, looking right. This is tense stuff though. Very, very tense. I'm waiting for at any moment for one of these impala to just all go careering off in all different directions, and maybe see a leopard catch one of them. Unfortunately, we can't move now. I really don't want to disturb her hunt. And even after the hunt, there has been a serious amount of rain at the moment. So any off-road driving will result in serious damage to the soil and the grass here. This area is also quite fragile and delicate because it's been burnt in the last 6 months. So the soils are in a process of recovering. But hopefully, fingers crossed, any action that happens is going to happen in front of us and we're going to see what happens from there. As it gets darker, these impala will often move out into more open areas as well. I just saw a little bit of a shuffle in the herd and it does look like they actually might be moving closer towards us. Hopefully they don't pick up her scent, because they are going to, if they do carry on moving forwards, move downwind of her. There we can see the male is big horns on the left. Oh. Impala trotting across to the right. Ooh. Wild, wild stuff out here. I cannot believe how close she is and how we're sitting here waiting for something to happen. These impala are completely unaware. They have no idea that there's a leopard right next to them. They are impala grooming, they're impala feeding, all heads down. When impala are aware of a predator, all heads are looking in the same direction, ears are pricked up. Completely the opposite behavior of what's happening right now. And she's right in that bush on the left. At this rate, we might have to... Well, there's impala actually walking into the thicket, right into where she is. Miombo, I'm not sure how old this leopard is. I'm not sure how old this leopard is. She is probably between 4 and 6 years old. Depending on which female it is. And then Alice, oh, there we go. I heard an alarm call there now, and the Impala trot moved quite a bit, but they don't seem like they're sure. Maybe someone got a whiff of her scent, and then alarmed, and everyone got a fright and they shuffled like they did, but no one's like looking in the same direction. These impala now are carrying on to move towards us. We can start to see quite clearly some of the youngsters, the young lambs on the left there. Alice, I know you were quite curious about what her favorite prey is, and at this time of year, for a lot of different predators, those impala lambs are the easiest source of food and protein. They're growing quickly, so there's a significant amount of meat on them, especially for a female leopard. But they're still very naive. They're not quite sure how. They're new to the world, not sure how the bush works, and they're not as aware and quick as the adults are. So they make quite easy prey. There are also a lot of them. It's so tense sitting here waiting for something to happen. I think surely in the next little while it's just going to all carnage is going to break out, and we're going to see impala running in all directions. The direction the impala are moving in now, as they're slowly coming towards us, and now they turned around and walking back, of course, just because I said that. But they're gonna be moving closer and closer to her. This is unbelievable. It's starting to get dark now as well. What she might be doing is she might be just biding her time for the light to fade. And as the light fades, the impala are going to become less and less visually aware of what's going on. So as well as their sight and their smell and hearing is going to be compromised. As it gets darker, their sight starts becoming compromised as well. And even though impala can see quite well in the dark, it's not as well as during the day. Which for this female leopard are going to increase the chances even more. At the back, the impala are looking in the opposite direction. I can see 3 or 4 individuals that are looking into the bush on the far side. I doubt that she's moved all the way around them, but it is possible. So the individual that we can see, the male is now on the far left of the herd. It's really starting to get dark here though. So Owen's just going to put the infrared light on. He's just got to wiggle the camera around and move a couple things. We are going to stay with these impala, and hopefully nothing happens until you guys are able to join us again.
I don't know what to do. Would you like a drive-in segment, or are you happy for us to... Okay, welcome back guys. So nothing's happened since you left us. We are connected to the infrared camera now, so we can see perfectly what's happening in this herd of impala. They are still moving around like they were, kind of doing pretty normal impala behavior when they are not too worried about anything.
So impala, generally speaking, are really alert anyway. There'll be constantly someone in the herd that's looking around, making sure they've got an eye out for any potential danger. But for the most part, these impala have been grooming, they're playing around a little bit, the youngsters. There's been some feeding, some chewing of the cud, so they regurgitate balls of food to chew again, which helps them get the most nutrient out of the grass as possible. But apart from that short little alarm call and a bit of a rustle amongst them, there's been absolutely no sign that they know that this leopard's there. And I just wish we could see her to see what she was doing, but I think she's probably lying almost completely flat in the grass. Glenn, so predators like this will definitely try pick out a target an individual target to go after. One of the reasons that zebra's camouflage works so well is because it makes it really hard for predators to identify individual targets and go after them. Now, in this herd of impala here, remember I was telling you about all those youngsters that are milling around in the middle there. My money would be on her going for one of those youngsters. That'll by far be the easiest opportunity for her. They're not as quick as the adults, they don't have as much stamina, and they're much easier to catch than the adults would be. So I would say she would definitely target one of the youngsters in this herd. It's even starting to get a little bit tricky for me to see what's going on through my binoculars here. But those impala are still very, very relaxed. We're just going to have to sit and wait and see if there's any reaction from the impala, and that's going to alert us to any movements of the leopard. If she decides to move, I'm sure the impala will, even if it's too late, see her and react. And that'll let us know that she's made a move. This is really, really nail-biting stuff out here, though. Wow. Minamu, the family tree or the kind of history of this leopard, all that information is kept on our database by the habitat team. This leopard, I'm not sure, it's either a mother or the daughter. So if it's the mother, it could be the Nyoni female, and if it's the daughter, the Tabankos female. Now, yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't manage to get a good enough look at her to identify which one it was. But they've both been in this area competing for the same territory. We've actually seen them together a couple of times. There's been a scuffle or two. And at one point when one of them was mating... Oh, the impala reacted to something there. You can see they're really, really skittish here. So any sort of unnatural crunch in the bushes, any kind of unnatural smell that might drift across them, and they'll pick that up almost immediately and react to it. It's getting darker and darker. I think as it gets darker, the chances and likelihood of her making a move get higher and higher. She closed the distance from the little watering hole or the pan system where she was to within the 30 meters away from these impala in probably less than a minute. And she's taking such a long time to close that last 20 meters. I believe Andrew has got another leopard that's up in a tree and in a much better position than ours is at the moment, so we'll go across to him. We are most definitely going to hang around here and see if anything changes. Otherwise, we'll see you a little bit later.
Except now at Columba, I can't see what it looks like a scrub hair. So we're just joined by the other vehicle. It looks like scrub hair, I think, because she went right in front of us, but it was a vehicle right in front of us as well. So we saw her jump, and then finally, the next moment, hyena came past by. Thought maybe, she's trying to hide away from that hyena. And she climbed up in a tree. It looks like she got a scrub hair. From here, if I'm not mistaken, just gonna take time just to see if it's so hard to see what kind of killer is this. But I'm sure we'll discover soon. Now the impalas are right on the open area where she actually attempted to hunt on them, and this is where she went to the thicket. So we were patient enough on the road, hoping for her to come out, which she did. This is where she got that kill there. So you're asking how often do the leopard hunt in the day or night? Well, they are nocturnal animal, and in day they're pushed by the chance of weather or cover. So three things: hunger, weather, but chance of cover. So if it's enough habitation for them to do so, where tall grasses allow them to still move but not to be visible, then they can hunt any day, but they are nocturnal. It's amazing here. She's actually on top of a marula tree. It is always best for them to climb with their kill immediately up. So we're using actually IR just to get as much as we can, a little bit of a visual of her. where wind provides more successful chance for a cat's most. Because of, since there is too much wind, all prey species are so confused sometimes. And a lot of time they just run into a danger, and that's how they get killed. Or realize that dangers it's already close by. Once they realize they have to get out immediately, but then have no chance. It's not a chance for them to survive almost impalas when it's wind. Before she eats it, she's gonna take it on time. As you can see, looks like she's resting her head on top of that prey. But you can see both of the prey species, that the she-goat and their self-looking, their eye reflections. And this is actually tells us that those are actually nocturnal animals. Both probably scrub hair, if I'm not mistaken that. But the scrub hair also mainly move around when it's dark. Once you started to feed on it, it's going to be done immediately. And she will have a lot of energy again to focus on another kill by continue hunting. So scrap hair has got a lot of a fluffy body, hairy animal. But a lot of time, the leopard will go into the meat straight right away. It's very difficult to pluck the fur out of it. Sometimes it's just open whole gut system. She'll probably eat the whole thing. So small, the head will be crunched, all of little feet. And this is how they survive. For them, feeding on a small thing. Scrub hairs, those dwarf mongoose, lizards, to keep their lives going and energy. While they're looking for a big prey like impalas, a grey duiker, steenbok size animal. It is a scrub hair, see those ears? It's windy up there. She's now mouse that it looks like she's gonna feed on it. She's a very successful hunter as well. It's been seen feeding on a lot of different antelope, such as Inyalas, females, bushbuck, females, Impalas plenty of time. This time there's a lot of a baby Impala running around where I believe after these, she'll be probably focusing on hunting around quarantine. So quarantine is an open area just to the western side of the Joomla camp itself, where it's beautiful open. So again, this is actually very sensitive, coming to very much sensitive for the sensitive viewers. But for the leopards, they need to feast sometimes after they hunt successfully. But so sorry about for those of you that it's very sensitive for you, then rather just maybe for now forget about, look away. But I'm sure she'll finish. Not long. Won't take long. Sorry about that. It's actually background noises from the other vehicle as well. So I'm going to stay put here with our Kalamba the princess. I'm going to be sending you across to Penda.
Welcome back to Punda, everyone. We've just moving us a little bit. Everyone, I'm just moving us a little bit. Everyone,
Sorry about that, Pina. I'm still here. Now you can see how she's pretty much feeding. And like I mentioned, she won't have time to pluck the fur out of that skin because it's very soft. Won't be plucked very nice easily, this fur, and then she's just gonna eat the whole thing.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Joomla Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Why is the Mara special? It's one of the only few places that you can find the annual wildebeest migration. I will still go for the lion. The main reason is a sign of royalty, leadership in my tribe, and apart from that, over here, it is feared by all but loved by everyone.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Still got our leopard. Still haven't finished her carcass yet, which is a scrub hay. And she's busy actually feasting on that. So everyone, thanks for this afternoon. We're coming in the end of the show. Hopefully tomorrow is going to be the best time, but we'll be mobile again for us to join you or you join us.
African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.